You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Home Field Apparel.
And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another edition of Assembly Call Radio, where we discuss the most important topics in the world of Indiana basketball. And I believe tonight is our 1079th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of May 28th. I'm your host, Coach Tonsoni. Sorry about that intro.
That's okay, Coach.
And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call, how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
Martin takes the shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
This week's banner moment happened Tuesday, and it's simple. The Bison is back. Okay, now let me introduce our co-host of the week. We have one here and one on the way. And first and foremost, it is Ryan Phillips. Oh, where's the Phillips? There we go.
Analyzing players, finding every wrinkle. He hasn't ever hosted, never lifted a finger. He's got all the
Well, let me
answers.
quickly add just one thing about this.
Dude just interrupted his own jingle.
Ryan, it's been a couple weeks. What are you feeling about Indiana basketball this evening?
Well, I want to touch on Hoosier the Bison also. Some of us got, sort of a heads up. This was in the works for a while. One of them was our buddy Galen Clavio from Crimson Cast, who, was involved in some behind the scenes stuff with this. And you can see him in the latest reveal video, finally realizing his long held dream of bringing the Bison back. But for years, people have always asked me why Indiana didn't have a mascot. And I was like, I don't know. And I guess it's, a Hoosier is just a person from Indiana, essentially. That kind of would be a weird mascot. Just a guy. I don't even know what you dress that guy up as. It's such a
didn't they have him like a big farmer guy one time in the 70s or 80s?
But that state from Indiana from north to south is so different that you can't pick out an average Hoosier. I mean, maybe like a kid with a water bottle and a backpack on campus. Maybe that works. I don't know. But so having the Bison be something, it's something that they've had before. They're redoing it, and I think it's great. And here's several reasons why I think it's great. One, just to have a mascot, to have a, something people can point to is like, oh, there he is, merchandise for kids. That's going to bring in a lot of money. Little Hoosier Bisons going to sell a lot in this state. And also just, being able to do more with advertising by putting something next to the school logo and being able to, kind of push that. Whereas in the past, they've kind of built it around coaches and or people, associated with the school. Now you can have the mascot, and it'd be interchangeable. When it's a bad season, you don't want to see the coach on a billboard. Let's put the mascot on the billboard. He has nothing to do with it. And so I just think there's several layers to it that just make a lot of sense. And there's a reason why other schools all have mascots or something they can put out there to represent the school. Indiana didn't have one for so long. And now it makes complete sense to finally do this. And I will say, look, a lot of it has to do with marketing, guys. To people who aren't happy with it, a lot of it has to do with marketing and being able to put something out there that is the face of the school or face of the athletic department, I would say. And I think it's a great move for everybody. Whether you like the Bison or you want it to be something else, it's something, and that is something Indiana hasn't had for a long time.
And welcome, Jerod Morris joins us now. We're talking Bison. It was the shortest banner moment in the history of Assembly Call Radio.
I heard it.
It was simply the Bison is back. I mean, what more is there?
Copyright
this
Galen
week?
Clavio. It's
yeah, and
No,
happy
Galen
for
is
Galen.
bring
My
back the
goodness.
Bison. You know what? I am too.
So-
and look, huge kudos to Galen.
obviously there's a lot of reasons why this happened, and he has maybe you guys mentioned this. He has an episode, of Crimson Cast with Jeremy Gray. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but that's kind of one of those I'm like waiting to listen at the perfect time so I can really like focus and enjoy it, because I'm really excited to hear the story about this. And I think there's absolutely no downside to this. I think it's phenomenal. I think if you need a little history lesson about, the number of bison that used to be in the state of Indiana to make this authentic, like go get it, because this is absolutely a reasonable thing to do. And, again, there's a lot of reasons why it happened. But, part of the reason why things like this happen is because of just subtle, subliminal, consistent messaging from people who have a platform. And that's what Galen did with the Bring Back the Bison. And it, obviously it needed a lot more than that to take place, but that subtle, consistent drumbeat was a big part of it. And so huge hat tip to Galen, which we say, not just because we're partners with him at the Back Home Network, but, just huge admirers of his and what he and Scott and their podcast have meant. And this is, to me, another feather in their cap, and just to the university and Jeremy Gray and the students and everybody who made this happen. I think it's awesome. I think it's the kind of thing that, kind of injects, new life into IU sports. And I think, especially for a basketball program that, hasn't done a ton over the past 20 years to engage younger fans and give younger fans a lot to grasp onto, this is something else to engage them. So I think it's all upside, and if someone from another school wants to make fun of it or doesn't think it makes sense, who cares? I couldn't care less about any of that stuff. I'm just excited. If Indiana's going to have a mascot, the Bison is a perfect mascot. I'm glad. And, when my dad decides to make fun of me because, Colorado is the Buffaloes and they're the ones who are really deserving, I don't care. We brought back the Bison. We had it before, and it's going to be awesome moving forward.
It's perfect timing. Indiana athletics, there's a little bit of a rebrand going on in basketball. They've made a lot of changes in staff and everything, and the football program just took off under Coach Cignetti. The other sports are thriving as well, and I think it was just good timing. And, it's a great marketing campaign. The videos coming out, what Jeremy Gray did and Sidney Parrish, and it just – I thought it was really well done, and it increases the excitement, and that's what you have to do is Indiana right now, thanks to Coach Cignetti and other coaches as well, but that's just a big part. When football is booming, things are really good for your university, and it was the right time. The tiles last year that Jeremy Gray were involved with brought something to the football stadium. And so all of that matters because it draws interest and it gets fans for years to come. One of the comments about a young person loving Boomer, the Pacers, and maybe not caring about the basketball, but loving Boomer, you're going to see some of that now with the Bison. So, yeah, I'm totally on board. Thought it was well done, well timed. Kudos to everybody.
Here's what I would say. If you want to have a quibble about it, and we're not going to dwell on this because I think this is a day to celebrate and it's very exciting, and I'm not going to judge it either way because I want to listen to the podcast and the reasoning behind it. I understand why people think the name Hoosier the Bison is a little bit awkward, and some of the other mascots don't have the school name as their name. So I will be interested to hear the reasoning behind that. If you want to argue and debate that, I think that's reasonable. But the Bison as a mascot is perfect. It's been perfect and felt perfect for a long time. So it's great that they did it. And, the other details around it, I'm excited to watch them evolve as it is. But it's a good day for Indiana sports.
First of all, Jeremy Gray's agent's going to be getting calls about acting.
I mean, the dude can act.
I heard somebody suggest they should have called it George after George Taliaferro, which I thought would have been a really nice touch. But, maybe that's just – a step beyond what they were.
George Leach.
Yeah, George Leach. Yeah, that's a memory I like to have. Thanks, Jerod. Those years.
Hey, George Leach played in a national title game.
Did he though?
Didn't he?
I think he was on the bench for that team. Yeah. But he was like the centerpiece when I got to school, and that was not a good thing. That was less about him and more about the rest of the team. But No, I think that, look, I just, it's one of those things where they did a great rollout. They got, I mean, you knew from the first one what it was. I mean, if you've been paying any attention, you knew from the first video what it was. And I thought it was really
okay.
nice how they teased
We
it
knew
out.
because we're like embedded in this stuff and think about it
Right,
all the
yeah,
time. But it
casual
probably built
fans maybe
suspense
didn't
with
know.
some other people. Yeah.
Yeah, casual fans maybe didn't know. But I mean, if you're watching or listening to this podcast, you probably had an inkling of what was going on there. And no, I think that it's again, you're right, Coach, that there is this sort of turning over of the athletic department over the last couple years. And I don't mean like from a leadership standpoint. I mean just it's fresh, it's new. They're trying to just put some bad memories in the past. You have a new basketball coach who I think a lot of people are really excited about. You have a new football coach who, when he arrived, I mean, I thought, I will admit, I did not think this administration had it in them to make a hire like Curt Cignetti. I really didn't, just based on some of the other things I'd seen, some of the things I've heard about people who were involved and all of that stuff. I didn't think they would do that. I thought maybe they would get a coordinator on the way up and he'd be here for 4 years. And if he was bad, he'd be gone. If he was a success, he'd, go on to somewhere else. But being able to land Curt Cignetti, and then that's a guy who, I mean, he was just a bomb dropped into the middle of that football program. I think people expected him to be a good coach, but I don't think they expected him to change the culture that rapidly of a program that has been bad for most of its existence. And, so you get that. And without Curt Cignetti, this probably doesn't happen. And without, people being that excited about football, as you said, probably doesn't happen. Even if you feel excited about the basketball coach, this probably doesn't happen. So I think that, that I will be looking back at that run to the college football playoff that Cignetti had in his first year as something I think that changed the athletic department for the better. Like years from now, we will look back at that. And I'm not saying Indiana's going to be a football power now and be there regularly or whatever, but I think that there was a lot of positive change and investment, even just thoughtful investment, not financial, in the athletic department after that. And I think you got to give them a lot of credit for what's going on in Indiana right now.
I'd like to recommend to everybody, just take a moment, rewind this podcast like a minute and listen to that sentence again. That run to the college football playoff in Curt Cignetti's first season. Like, we all lived through it. Like, it seemed crazy in the moment. It seems even bizarre, like just in the most beautiful, amazing way now, looking back on it. It's still, like, to a certain extent, it doesn't quite feel real. It's like, no, that actually happened.
Well, the thing is, you never know when you're getting back, and no. I'm not saying they're not capable of it. I mean, it's just like, it's one of those things. I hope people really appreciated that because of how hard it is to get there. I mean, the Big Ten is always tough. The SEC is always tough. The Big 12 is going to have teams in it now. And it's just, you got there, you, regardless of the vote or whether people thought you should be there, you were there. And very few schools can say that and will be able to say that moving forward. So that was one of those moments that I think we'll look back on as like a flag plant moment or a fork in the road, moment because if they wind up not getting into the playoff and they go to a good bowl game, it doesn't have the same effect. It just doesn't. The excitement around the program when they were going up to play Notre Dame was like nothing I've ever seen before for the football program.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, and
welcome back to the Bison.
And what I just want to add, obviously we're not going to spend the whole time talking about football, but they've backed it up now by signing a quarterback that every single, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but every single mock draft I've seen for next year has Mendoza as a first round pick, sometimes in the top 15. Now, that doesn't mean a hill of beans if he comes out and doesn't play and all that, but still, this is Indiana. Right. And so just having a quarterback projected in the first round,
like quarterback people will be paying attention to.
Yes, quarterbacks in the this is just territory we haven't been in, and so look, and I don't think you have to tell people not to take it for granted because it's amazing, and we're all enjoying the heck out of it.
And look, you never know how a guy's going to play in the Big Ten versus where he was or whatever. But you're right, just the momentum behind him will get people's eyes on the program. And then if you're good early, people start talking about you, and they start being invested in all of that. So, I want to come back down to earth. From that football, because if your expectations are college football playoffs every year, it's like you're going to be very disappointed. But they've certainly followed up a great year by putting pieces in place to have another really good year at the very least. And then if you're a program that gets to, let's say, you're going to get to 8 wins every year, 7-8 wins, you're definitely going to get. And then it's a roll of the dice on the other 3, there's 3-4 games could go either way, and then that's where you want to be as a program. You're going to have your off years, but being able to be within a stone's throw of those big moments is something this program hasn't had.
Much better to be a rocket ship on the way up than one fading back to the ground like USC.
Oh, last minute dig. But hey, we're going to talk some basketball seriously in this coming up. We got some Hoosier headlines in segment 1. We're going to talk a little bit about the outing at Huber's Winery tonight. We're going to have mailbag. We're going to talk a little bit about the Puerto Rico trip. All of that is coming up here on Assembly Call Radio.
Meaningful moments that you might.
Well, that's not home field apparel.
Home field apparel. Wear one for the team.
Let's talk about our presenting sponsor, Home Field Apparel. This edition of Assembly Call Radio and all shows on the Back Home Network are presented by our friends at Home Field Apparel, where they have the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you'll find anywhere. And it's not just IU. Home Field has unique, interesting designs printed on the softest, most comfortable fabrics for over 150 colleges and universities, plus plenty of other brands like Little Five, IndyCar, The Fever, and more. At the Indy 500, 2 young kids sitting in front of me didn't have jackets. Dad went and bought Home Field jackets to make sure those little guys were warm during the race. Always good for the appropriate attire, always good for design. The only downside is that Home Field is always expanding, always adding something new. It sells out quickly, so if you want to get a shot at the good stuff as it is released, you need to follow them on their social media, subscribe to their text and emails, and make sure you're staying up to date so you don't miss anything. So go to homefieldapparel.com. Use our promo code HOME23 to get 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME23 for 15% off. Once again, the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. And we have a special guest before we move on.
Should we bring him on?
Welcome to the show. Yes.
The man of the hour himself.
I'm not sure
Is he
I'm
there?
the man. I am. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you.
Disembodied voice. How are you?
That's
I'm
right.
doing great, Ryan. How are you?
Better than we got a Bison back, Galen.
It's about time. Thank goodness. Yeah, it's been a great day. Great last couple of days on that front, and we cap it off with a really nice event down at Huber's tonight. So, yeah, I mean, we can start wherever, guys. I'm ready to talk about anything at this point.
Yeah, so let's start with Huber's, and we want to get the full story of the Bison and dive into that some, and so we have a couple questions for you at the end, but we also want to make sure that people go to the Crimson Cast feed, listen to your episode with Jeremy Gray, so we don't want to spoil that whole story here. But let's start with the breaking news at Huber's Winery. You were there at the annual event. Curt Cignetti was there. Darren DeVries was there. Lots of Indiana fans there. Like, just kind of take us into the scene. What was it like, and what really stood out?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. This was actually my first trip down to that event. I've been trying to go the last few years, and timing just didn't work, but it was packed. There were over 900 people that were down there as paying customers, and everybody got to hear. I think the headliner, and this was brought up to me by several people, almost every other year, this event has the basketball coach as the headliner. This year it was Curt Cignetti as the headliner. Darren DeVries went first. And you could tell, I mean, the reaction to Darren DeVries was positive. Everybody was very curious to hear what he had to say. When Curt Cignetti got up there, the place went absolutely wild. I mean, there were people standing on chairs and cheering. And Cignetti leaned right into it, as we're used to by now with him. He really he was eating it up and was really getting the crowd fired up, had some jokes. So that was all great to see. Darren DeVries, he came across really well. he got asked by Don Fisher, who was the MC of the evening, what do you want essentially people to know about the way that your teams play? And his statement was, I want you to walk out of Assembly Hall every night saying that was the hardest playing team that I've seen, so far. And so he hit all the right notes, kind of brought up his upbringing in the small town in Iowa and made a couple of jokes about how small his high school was. The crowd really ate that up. And it was just a good vibe in general. The group, all the assistant coaches were there, which was really cool to see. They had Kenny Johnson and Drew Adams and Nick Norton and Clark up there as well. So you got a chance to hear from all of them. And that was, I think, good for the audience. The audience was, as I think most of us are right now, kind of cautious, wanted to hear what they had to say, wanted to hear what the process was. I think the biggest breaking news was DeVries telling the media and the crowd, like, they're still actively recruiting. They've got those 2 spots open. So nothing's been decided on those yet. But overall, just a really good vibe in general across the entire thing.
That's awesome. And by the way, we should let folks know you are driving back now in some areas that may not have great connection. So if it breaks, it broke up a little bit there, but it was still good enough to hear you. But just a heads up, a warning. But even Galen breaking up is worth having on here.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, no, we're on 37 north of Bedford. So anybody that's driven on there and tried to maintain a phone call knows exactly what's happening right now.
Like, there are places without great, data reception, like North Korea and north of Bedford. It's,
Wow. Not a comparison I was expecting to have on this show, but here we are. Okay, so since we don't know how long we'll have you, Galen, let's jump to, talking about the Bison. And again, we recommend that everybody listen to that story or to the episode that you had with Jeremy Gray, but obviously, you are connected to this for, many reasons. I mean, being one of the main voices of IU sports and the way that you've signed off of Crimson Cast for many, many years with Bring Back the Bison. Like, I'm kind of curious, what was the origin of that? Like, how long have you been doing that? Why did you decide to do it? And like, what, if any, impact do you think that actually had on helping to build the momentum to make this happen?
It's funny. I was trying to think back to when I started that tagline, and it hasn't been as long as people think. It's become a part of the normal ending of the show, but I got to go back and listen to episodes. I think I might have started doing that in 2022 or 2023. It might have been even slightly earlier or later than that. But the origin of it was really, for me, this idea of, I've always been intrigued by the Bison. And, what got me interested in it from the beginning, and you can see this when I'm up in the upstairs studio for Crimson Cast, I've got that rug that a lot of people had from the 60s and 70s that's got the running Bison and the hurrying Hoosiers on it. I remember that from my childhood, but it was always kind of a dead on arrival idea. And this is something that we talked about a little bit on the show with Jeremy. There always felt like there was a huge amount of resistance to reassociating the Bison with IU. But I remember back in, I think it was right after the pandemic, I discovered that one of the administrators in the College of Arts and Sciences, which the media school is technically a part of, a guy named Paul Gutjahr, who some of you may know his son, Jeremiah Gutjahr, who played soccer for IU for 4 years. But to me, he had been running what essentially was a guerrilla campaign to support the idea of bringing the Bison back. So he's got the background with and Buffalo about the history of the Bison. Did we lose me, or are we still here?
You're back now.
You're back. Yep.
Nope. I think we hit a dead spot. Still talking. If anybody's still got me, are we back?
You can't hear us now.
We got you.
We're in touch. I cannot. Okay. All right. So I don't know where we dropped off there, but Paul Gutjahr, from Colorado originally, had the background with the Colorado Buffalo and learned about the history of the Bison with Indiana. And so he started producing merchandise for free that he would give out to people. And so we connected, we talked about it, and he started using me to help get that merchandise out to students. It was really where the groundswell of the idea. And then I attend on the podcast because I've always been a fan of the idea of having the Bison. And I just wanted to see, could we at least start a little movement outside of campus? And then things kind of just grew from there.
That's awesome, Galen. And I will say, I thought something was up when you gave us T-shirts at Upstairs this year that had the Crimson Cast and then a Bison on it. I thought, oh, is something going on here?
Well,
what is, for you, how rewarding is it to see it actually come to fruition?
It's incredibly rewarding. I mean, it's funny, last year, actually it was 2 years ago, it was 23. I think I'd started doing the tagline, now that I think about it, in like spring of 23. And I got to thinking with Crimson Cast, we've always had those kind of cylindrical designs. And I was like, let's get clever and let's try to do something. And I found a Bison logo that you could buy off of a dealer online. And so I bought it. We made the T-shirts, and that just became part of it. But to watch it go from where we were before to where we're at now has been really fascinating. And I think I might have actually just gotten caught for speeding, guys. So I may have to hop off here for a second.
We have to
end the week.
They're pulling me over.
Yeah.
So they're pulling me over. I'm going to stop now, and I'll talk to you guys in a second. All right.
Yeah. Text us. Let us know how it goes. That cop was definitely listening to the show.
Okay.
And heard Galen on and pulled him over. There's
that's
no
a
way.
first.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's no
Yeah,
way.
and by the way, we should also give a little credit to John Ringer, who we always thank at the end of the show, who did the designs for the Back Home Network, who designed one of the alternate logos that he had, is that Bison logo, which is one that we've actually used. Like if you're in the Discord, that's a logo we have in there. We've given out some
on the
hats
YouTube
that have
channel,
that logo on it. Yeah, on the YouTube channel, it's right on there. So it's all coming full circle. So which is nice.
We should
The
start a
way Galen-
GoFundMe. We should really start a GoFundMe for Galen's ticket. It's
Yes, we're going to pay for Galen's speeding ticket for sure if it comes to that.
Is he actually back on, or
I don't know. He popped back in, so I figured, if we're going to get some good audio, let's just bring him on here. If we start hearing sound from that line, let's just all be quiet.
I don't want to be part of a court case, guys.
Oh, well, that's true.
I think this might be
All right.
accidental.
We'll remove him. We'll check him. We'll check on him again in a little bit. Okay. Okay, that's a first. I did always kind of think Coach would be the one to get arrested live on an episode of the Assembly Call, but
I did too.
Galen getting pulled over is kind of the first interaction with law enforcement, so that's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my eye on my text and see what happens there. But
yes,
no, it's really cool. Just for all that to happen. I know Galen's been a big proponent of it for a while, and he's kind of Mr. Bloomington. So the fact that it's come through is pretty great. And I'm excited for everybody, man. I really am, and I'm excited for Indiana fans in general, not just for the Bison, but for what's going on. It feels like after years of kind of being in the wilderness with a lot of stuff, we're sort of getting this rebirth. And I don't mean to insult anyone here, but acting like a real athletic department and really like a professional athletic department that thinks things through and makes the right moves. And we'll see how they go. I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like things are headed in the right direction in Indiana.
That's nice. I mean, especially from a basketball perspective, where it feels like, for a lot of good reasons, we've always been so focused on the past and the old traditions, and that's great. And I think there's a place for that. And what I love about this is it's an old tradition brought back to the new, but that is still kind of manifesting that whole idea that we've been excited about for the last couple of years, which is change. And this is fresh. Like that's the thing. Like it's old. It's an old tradition that's back, but it's fresh. And that's what Indiana sports feel a little bit now, is fresh. Now we got to win. But football started that. Obviously the women's basketball program has been winning, and so we need to get
soccer needs to get the 9th.
Going.
Soccer needs to get its 9th
on,
national title.
Step it up.
So
soccer.
close, so many times. Come on, let's go. Got to break through.
Come on.
Hoosier will show up if you make the cup this time.
That's right. That is right. All right. Coach, are we ready to move on to segment 2?
Yeah, let's go. Well, let me go over these Hoosier headlines real quick.
We're this far in. We
scheduled trip. Yeah, we forgot to do the Hoosier headlines, but Indiana has a trip to Puerto Rico, playing August 6th against the Puerto Rico All-Stars, August 9th and August 11th against Mega Superbet, a Serbia Pro League. That was just announced. Official announcements came out on Drew Adams and Kenny Johnson being announced, and Jeff Goodman has reported, has not been confirmed yet, that there's going to be a new director of player personnel from Sam Houston State, Justin Bailey. So we'll see if we get some confirmation on that. As Galen was driving back and talking to us, Huber's event where they had the coaches down, the key thing there, fellas, was that all the assistants were down there. And I think that is a very important signal of maybe, where things are headed here. And recruiting, just real quick, I know we kind of take a back seat here to recruiting until we get some commitments, but we're having some visits. A young man by the name of Sammy Jackson, 6'7", he will be coming to Indiana for a visit and is going to make a decision on June 25th. Prince Alexander Moody also has scheduled a visit, has offers from Illinois, Maryland, Michigan State, Providence, and Virginia Tech, among others. And then Latrell Allman, a 6'8", is going to come visit Indiana June 17th through the 18th, and a whole bunch of other offers. So, all the other sites that follow recruiting, go and see if you're into that. But these are the young men who are going to be on campus soon, and I'm sure we'll be hearing some more announcements of visits and hopefully some commits. And today, Coach DeVries down at Huber's did talk about his philosophy of recruiting. So those are some headlines that are happening here for Indiana. But coming up on Assembly Call Radio, we'll talk about that Puerto Rico trip and some of the quotes coming out of Huber's about the basketball program. So stick with us.
Hi, this is AJ Moye. What's the only thing better than upsetting Duke in the Sweet 16? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jerod, Andy, Ryan, and Coach for the assembly call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers!
Welcome back to Assembly Call Radio, where we're having a lot of stuff. The Bison's back. We hope Galen gets back to Bloomington. We have a lot of things going on here today, but a pretty exciting show. And the event, Hoosier Connect, hosted a NIL event down at Huber's Winery where the coaches would come and talk. There's a lot of information out. Go watch the videos. Go do that. Some very good comments that I'll ask Jerod and Ryan about. But that's always a good thing, to connect with the fans, connect with the donors, to try to get that first sense of what's going on down there. And both those coaches did a good job today. Jerod, your thoughts on the importance of an event? There's several ways that this is an important event for Indiana athletics.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of these trips, especially when it's a coach's first season. And, I think especially now when you have, rosters that are so transient and so many new guys together, obviously there's lots of stuff that you can do on campus and playing together, but I just don't think that you can really substitute, going on a trip together where, everybody's having that shared experience together, so you kind of bond in that way. And then you get to go up against live competition, starting to work out some of the kinks with this new system. If you think back to Mike Woodson's first season, that's when Indiana took the trip to the Bahamas, right? That was the trip to the Bahamas was Mike Woodson's first season. And I think that was a big, and I know, look, that team went 21-14. They snuck into the NCAA tournament. They, had the big loss to St. Mary's. It's not exactly a season, that we write home about or tell our kids about. But it was a really big improvement over the previous year when Indiana won 12 games and fired their coach. They become a 21-win team, and that team, did some good things. And I think a part of that was, getting those guys together and being able to gel, and then, kind of being able to hit the ground running a little bit when the season started. And so I think those trips, anything you can do like that, just for chemistry, for building some continuity heading into the season for guys that haven't played, it's all upside. And so I think it's great that they did it. I know that now, with the NCAA obviously being toothless and not being able to enforce anything, you've got Green Bay petitioning with Doug Gottlieb to get into the basketball tournament, which is all kind of crazy. But what may happen is, I wonder if that 4-year rule where you can only do one of these every 4 years, I wonder if that goes away and you start to see teams be able to do this more. I think they should, because I think with where college basketball is, with rosters changing so much, anything you can do to allow teams to play together more in the offseason is basically going to help us get a better product. Because,
Agreed.
by the time you get to November, these teams are going to be a little bit farther ahead than they are. And I don't even think I could make up a reason why they shouldn't be able to do this. Like, it's kind of a stupid rule. If the teams want to do it and the money's there to do it, it's a great experience for all the players. Why would you not do it unless the universities, kind of like the pro teams put a salary cap in to protect them from themselves, unless the universities do it just because they don't want to have to pay for it every year. But I think I hope we see more stuff like this. And I think the timing is absolutely perfect for IU basketball to do it. So I'm really excited to, just see what comes out of it. And, just to see the kind of impact it has on Darren DeVries getting his system in, because look, I think Darren DeVries, it's not that he needs to win big in year one, but he has to build belief and trust in year one. And I think the work that they'll get done in Puerto Rico will go a long way toward that, and that will help earn him some patience. But you don't walk in to a new job with patience anymore. You kind of have to earn it by succeeding in year one.
Especially not given what happened here.
Yeah, it's a different ball game. It's funny, but if you're good your first year, that kind of buys you patience then for years 2 and 3. Dusty May and Pat Kelsey are going to get patience now because they earned it in year one. And so I think this trip can really help Indiana and help Darren DeVries in that direction.
Yeah, and I think Jerod,
Ryan, your thoughts on the Puerto Rico trip? Yeah,
Jerod,
go ahead.
You made a really good point about this team being able to bond together with a new coach and a bunch of new players that never played together. Just in this world of the portal where there's so many new players on almost every team, this is important now. And I think that they should be allowed to do it every year, or at least, I don't know if universities will paint that as something that's acceptable, but I do think
this IU team blows on defense.
Jesus, I hit the wrong button. Sorry. I meant to play this. Sorry. I meant to play this.
We are so off tonight. We're so off tonight.
We need Eddie.
Okay.
We got so used to Eddie hitting the buttons that I can't hit the right buttons. Jerod can't hit the right buttons.
We need a Puerto Rico trip to get back together. No, Galen said he's back. He has a few minutes, so I wanted to break in to interrupt to get back to him, and I was actually on the page with Galen's sound bites, and I accidentally hit that one. So my apologies, but Galen is back. Galen live from hopefully the car.
And not Monroe County Jail.
not yet been impounded. No.
Okay, so what just happened, Galen?
I think we can, of all the things, we can now add speeding while podcasting to the resume. This is an inexpensive episode, guys. That's all I'm going to say right now. So.
That's right. We did an ad read for
Galen was going
earlier, so
Galen was going north as fast as the Bison running across the plain.
That's right.
Sir, you can't have a live Bison in your car on the freeway.
Right.
I guess we all just keep podcasting long enough.
Point.
What are we at? Like 3,500 combined episodes? Like eventually everything will happen on a live show. So we just crossed this off the list now. So it's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. Okay.
I knew it was bound to happen at some point, right, guys? Yeah, seriously.
All right. So while we have you, any other observations from your encounter, your recent encounter with law enforcement, or from Huber's?
I mean, enforcement was very, very, very course, I'll say. And
Was he a listener?
no,
like,
but
did you ask him if he's an IU fan who listens?
Hey, you know what? I didn't figure that it wasn't really the right time to bring it up, Jerod. I'm just going to be
honest. Or did you
honest
big time him? You're like, do you know who I am? I brought back the Bison.
Shockingly, that doesn't have a lot of pull with Monroe County PD, sadly. But maybe someday, maybe
eventually.
But no, maybe eventually. But I guess to finish off Ryan's question from before all that happened, I'm very gratified about the Bison coming back. That's great. I'm looking forward to the full reveal. I think it'll be a lot of fun for everybody. As far as other Hubers, I keep losing you guys. But as far as other Hubers observations, I just think in general, it was a really positive vibe. And look, I think the one thing I've noticed is that there really is a groundswell of significant interest in IU sports right now at a level that I haven't seen in a while, and most of it's being led by football. But I think that basketball, all the elements are there. It's just a matter of figuring out how to put them all together. And you guys have talked about needing a runway of sorts to get excited. I've said the same thing. Tonight's, event at Huber's was a good start to that. There were no men's players because they haven't had to report back yet. They're reporting here, and it's a brand new team, fresh team. They're supposed to get here. DeVries talked about how he's really looking forward to Monday, which is when everybody gets together and has that first kind of live, practice session or whatever it is. I don't know exactly what they term it in the offseason. And I think people reacted well to that. And at this point, other than hearing DeVries talk a little bit more about who he is and what he stands for and what his teams are going to do, I think it's really just about getting people into a position where they can feel excited about IU basketball again. And that runs all the way up and down the fan base. One of the things Jeremy talked about in the podcast about the Bison today was the need to reestablish a connection between the basketball team and the student, fan base. I think that also needs to happen with the alumni fan base. And so you're really starting not from scratch, but I think there's a resetting of expectations and a resetting of the way that the relationship interacts with each other. And that's the thing I think that tonight did a good job getting started.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Galen, we're going to let you go. Please drive safely. Get back home. Without any further incidents, please. And about what we do, we really appreciate you coming on and giving us your insight. And you guys actually have 2 episodes there in the feed. So just so much content coming out here on the Back Home Network right now. So make sure you go check out those Crimson Cast episodes on there. Any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to say that you haven't had a chance to yet before you head out?
I think I've done enough damage for one night. So I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. And, we'll look forward to catching you all next time.
All right. Bye, Galen.
Bye.
All right. Pulled over live on an episode. That's great. That is great. And if you're listening to the podcast and you think this was some sort of little audio playlet, go watch the video because you can see Galen driving and see him stop. So it was all real. All real.
Yeah, we were talking about Puerto Rico. The thing that's really good, and it was mentioned tonight by Coach DeVries, is the 10 extra practices. And you hinted upon that for a new team, especially. I think it's just vital to do, and it's going to be interesting to see. Coaches attack these summer trips differently. Some play everyone and have a pre-scripted and want to see what combinations work and get everyone on film. And others sometimes play them like actual games, and where they feel, the minutes are going to be, play it out like an actual game. I'm a big proponent of the first way. Get everyone out there. Don't worry about, the results are going to be overblown regardless. Wins or losses, everyone's going to take them a little bit too far. Because
especially
we're
idiots
just
with
excited
a
about
show.
Absolutely. But I would structure it to where I want to see this group together for 7 minutes. I want to get this, and I would really structure it really heavy and then get it on film and maybe play that last game a little bit more like a traditional game if I wanted to, because you have so many new players and you want to see what combinations work. You want to get stuff on film so that everyone can get better. You don't want to sit 2 or 3 guys that are supposedly out of the rotation at the beginning of the summer and not play them. So I'm a big proponent of these trips. And one of the questions, Ryan, that I had on the run sheet was, I think nowadays, colleges ought to do a summer league like the NBA does, where you have a Midwest summer league and you go and you play, 3 or 4 games. The rules of hours and all of that seem to me now to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not where a coach can have 8-hour practices every day, but I think some of that can be loosened up because of the seriousness now of the league and the money and all of that's invested. But a summer league would be good to where you wouldn't have to travel overseas. It would cut down on expenses, yet you could go play people you wouldn't play in the regular season and get stuff on film. It would be a big moneymaker if you sold tickets. If you wanted to do it privately, you could, or even television rights to some of those summer leagues, because we all tune into that NBA stuff to see the rookies.
Yeah, and I think that's not a bad idea, Coach. I mean, some players would opt out for risk of injury, understandably. Right. Cooper Flagg would not have played in a summer league before his freshman year, or he would have been advised not to, just tearing ACL or whatever. But the players who need the most work would certainly opt in, and that's where your money's made during the season. It's not always your superstar. It's the guys around them that need to be at peak shape and everything. And so I agree. I think a summer league that has been bandied about sort of behind the scenes. I don't know. That's a huge hurdle with the NCAA that they will have to, and, with schools and all of that stuff about hours for these, students and all that. But a lot of kids are on campus for summer school anyway. If they're, if they're in college, they stay in town to work out and stay in summer school. A lot of the top players do. Unless they're off playing for the U18 team or something like that. But then again, those guys probably aren't going to be playing in a summer league or anything like that. As far as this trip goes, like I said, I think that it's great for Indiana because, again, whole new roster, all new coaches. The coaching staff has to develop chemistry too. It's not just about the players. I mean, that's a very underrated part of college basketball and pro basketball is the chemistry of a coaching staff, knowing when to step in, when you can use your voice, among the assistants and all of that, knowing how to fit together. I also think it's just raising excitement, playing games, seeing the way they play. It'll be a, very low level version of what they're going to try and do in the fall and winter, but it will be something that will be, hey, that's a new style of play that we can then dissect and get excited about for the fall. So I think that it works on every level. I agree with Jerod that I think this should be something where you are allowed to do this every year. Now, athletic departments may say, we don't have the money to do this every year. We can do this every other year or something like that. Pick your spots. If you think this is the year you want to do it this year. You're not going to get to do it next year. So, but anyway, I think it's great. I think these trips work great. And more than just getting on the court, it's getting away and bonding and spending time together and getting to know each other, especially if you don't, and you're not used to playing together, you're not used to hanging out. This is where you build those bonds, where you become close, and then you're willing to fight for the guy next to you on the court when you're friends. And that's how this is going to be built. And so again, these trips are great, and I'm very excited about it for Indiana. The results are going to be the results, whatever they are. They don't really mean anything. It's glorified, practice scrimmage type stuff. I mean, it's a full game, but he's going to put lineups together that won't play together in the season. He's going to play players more than he will during the season, all that. They're just going to be feeling stuff out. But I think it's just awesome for us to have something to view and talk about as what we do on this show, but also as fans. And then, also for the players to get to know each other on and off the court.
Very similar to exhibition games too, when you have those 2 exhibition games or you have those secret scrimmages or those types of things. The results are the results, but we don't know what's going on and the strategy behind it. But I really think it's good when you have a total rebuild. It's especially good for the reasons that both of you said, the team chemistry, the excitement for the fans, and just the X and O's and getting stuff on film before you start official practice in October. I think that's vital. A couple just quotes that I grabbed real quick from Huber's tonight. The one that a lot of people are probably concerned with, I get asked a lot up here from Indiana fans, is about the center position defensively. And it's just this is a paraphrase from listening to the pre interview before he went on in front of the fans. But he said he ended up saying we are going to be undersized at times defensively at the 5. He said, but there are many ways to protect the rim, and it's up to us to find ways to protect the rim when we are undersized. Throw it back to you, Ryan. The 5 and the size has been a concern of the roster so far. He seemed to have a plan for it, and we'll see if it manifests as a successful plan coming up. Your thoughts on Coach DeVries' comment there?
Gonna have to play team defense and pressure the ball if you're undersized inside. I mean, it's as simple as that. They've got some athletic guys around the basket who maybe don't have the size but have the athleticism and even block shot rates and defensive rebounding rates and things like that to make up for some of that stuff. But you got to play team defense. You can't have your margin for error when you are not big at the back gets so much smaller, and so because you don't have someone to clean up messes. So everybody has to play defense. You can't leave one guy, can't leave driving lanes open, can't do any of that. So that's my answer to it. They're going to have to play team defense. On the offensive end, I don't think it'll be a problem because it's going to be an offense that moves. And I think that you'll get post-ups, you'll get mismatched post-ups and things like that. I don't think that'll be an issue. And they're going to shoot a lot. So you're going to be a moving offense, which, in that case, you don't really need a pure center in that way.
And sometimes we have to look at not what you can't do, but what you can do. And Coach DeVries also mentioned that his 4s and 5s can handle the basketball. And so you're going to see them in pick and pops. You're going to see them running some zoom action, some backdoor passing out of the 4 and 5. And so you have an advantage on the other end if you have a deficiency. And he's obviously would rather have a shot blocker, but he said there's ways to guard the rim without blocking shots. And that's, again, a sign of, hey, maybe you didn't get everything that you wanted, but we're still going to go win basketball games. That's kind of hidden behind there. Jerod, any thoughts on what we have looked at as that 5 position? Who's going to be that rim protector that we are used to the last few years? A different approach, it seems like, coming from Coach DeVries.
Hey, look, we're Indiana basketball fans. We come by our desire for perfection naturally and with good reason. And so anytime you see a roster, you kind of look at it, it's like, well, okay, we can do this, this, and this, but we have this and that deficiency. And I think it's perfectly fair to look at the roster, especially when the coach says, hey, we may have some challenges protecting the rim, and say, okay, this is going to be an issue. But I would also remind everybody that one of the strengths of this program for the last 4 years has been protecting the rim, with a block percentage in the top 80, I think, for 4 straight years. And that occasionally amounted to good defense, but a lot of times did not amount to good defense. And we found ourselves, wanting better point of attack defense, wanting, more versatile wings, wanting a system that felt a little bit more aligned with defending modern offenses. And so while we may take a step back in block percentage, I think we're going to take a step forward in all of those other areas. Look, I think in a perfect world, maybe in 3 or 4 years, Darren DeVries builds a team that can contend for a national title. And you look at it and you say, wow, there's really no weaknesses on this team. They can protect the rim. They can guard the perimeter. But we're not there yet. It's his first season. He wasn't going to get a perfect roster. I am fine with the trade-off of kind of questionable rim protection for what they went for. And I think that's the thing. You have to look at the trade-offs. And so if they didn't have the rim protection, but you look at it, it's like, well, shoot, who's going to be your point of attack defender? Well, we have a guy who can do that.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, who's going to guard out on the wings? Well, we have some guys who can do that. So I would, it's not to say like, oh, we don't need to worry about rim protection. Clearly the coach is already concerned about it. But that's something they're going to have to work through. But I think they have enough other pieces to where I think they can put a competent defense together. And I think if they can put a competent defense, combine that with what I think, it's all theoretical right now, but I think we've got a chance to have a pretty good offense because of the 3-point volume that we'll have, which I think is going to make us fairly efficient, and the ability for the bigs to move. That's an NCAA tournament team with a top 25 offense and a top 50-ish defense, which I think is reasonable. That's a good team. And that's all I'm looking for in Darren DeVries' first season. Let's be a good, competent team. Going to have some weaknesses, going to have to coach around him, but that's what his job is. And I think he's shown that he can be adaptable. And so it's a concern, but I'm not like worried about it. It's just, I think the trade-offs that we've made make sense to me. And I also think maybe the concern is a little bit overblown, because even though we don't have the size, and we do have some athletes, if the guy from Florida, takes the next step in his development, guys who are 6'8", 6'9" at the college level can protect the rim. Trace Jackson Davis isn't 7'3", but he learned to be a better rim protector. So, in 2 or 3 years, I would love to look at a roster and say, wow, I don't see a weakness here. But I'm perfectly fine, with going into the season with that as kind of a glaring issue, because I think some of the other things, lead me to feel good about where we are.
And to that point, Coach DeVries did say we have size elsewhere. We may not have the ideal size at the rim, but we have size elsewhere, and that's all part of that plan to protect the rim. And then I know this quote, and I pulled this specifically for you, Jerod. Coach DeVries said, "Great depth in shooting. The roster has great depth in shooting the basketball, which is a priority for us." And as we mentioned in a previous podcast, Jerod loves hearing that we have shooters and depth of shooting.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't give me credit. I'm not like the lone wolf out here saying we should prioritize shooting. Every single Indiana fan is excited to hear about that, because we've had to watch these teams struggle with no ability to space the floor, no ability to make a run, no ability to just have the, very little ability to, make the big threes that can shift the momentum in a game, and building an offense around it. I mean, it's music to all of our ears. This is what we should have been doing. It's one of the biggest frustrations that we've all had. And it's one of those things, you look at it and there's going to be a game where, we go 4 for 23 from 3-point range. Then you have some people that are like, oh, well, see, we're taking too many threes. We should pound it inside. And to them, I will simply say nothing, really. I'll just kind of ignore it because it's a dumb opinion. That's going to happen sometimes over the course of a season. But overall, we are going to be very well served, not just by increasing the volume, but with having shooters who have proven it at the college level. That's what I'm excited about. Lamar Wilkerson, he's proven it. Tucker DeVries, he's proven it. Like, these guys are going to go out there, be high volume shooters who can make shots, and it's one of those things. It's going to give us a chance in every game, because that's what 3-point shooting does in basketball now. So I don't take any credit for that. We are all extremely excited to see that.
Having shooters and prioritizing shooters is not just about shooting. It's about the offense in total. And it creates, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, it creates a ton of problems for the defense when you have to spread at the floor to respect the shooters. It opens up massive driving lanes. Even if you do have a back to the basket guy, or a guy who can get buckets with his back to the basket, it lets him operate in isolation with just one defender on him instead of 3 collapsing on him. There's all these knock-on ripple effects from being able to make shots. And that's what the Warriors learned, and that's what everybody else has learned. It's the most important
skill in the sport.
100%.
It's so stupid to try and build a winning team without prioritizing it. It really is.
Took the words out of my mouth, Morris.
As we get ready to end segment 2, Indiana Pacer style, is it going to be the same, similar, close? Your thoughts. The Pacers are playing an incredible, great basketball style. Fast pace, up and down the floor, shoot the 3, attack the rim. Are we going to see that next year? Thoughts?
I'll tell you this. Look, I think the Pacers are just – everyone's fallen in love with the Pacers. And it's awesome that they play for an Indiana team, because they play basketball in a way that is so pleasing and that is so team-oriented. And I think, coming out of that last Knicks games, there were 2 quotes that really summed it up for me. As much as it's the style, it's the mindset. It was Pascal Siakam responding to Charles Barkley saying he needed more shots, by saying, hey, that's not how we play. I'm a team guy. I'll take the shots that I get. Our system is about that. Tyrese Halliburton, people, read him his stat line, which was ridiculous. I mean, a historic stat line. I don't think it had ever been done before when you added the turnover part in there. And he basically said, like, you guys are just making up stats to make me look good. This is about the team. And I just think that and a lot of credit to Rick Carlisle, who I got to see up close here in Dallas for a while and is an excellent coach. And I think, he and Luka Doncic really clashed because obviously Luka Doncic is a phenomenal player and is a big time winner, but you have to play a certain style with Luka Doncic. And that is everything, basically being centered on Luka Doncic.
You have to play a certain style when you play for Rick Carlisle too. He's kind of a hard ass with that. In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah. And so those guys are going to clash. And with the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, he has the ability to be that guy in spurts, but he doesn't have the mentality where he needs to be that guy. And I think that's what makes him such a great player. He's really malleable to the game and what's happening around him. And they have a team with such depth, and you're seeing it with Oklahoma City as well, depth and teamwork, really, are being valued this year in the playoffs. You're seeing it win. And so when it comes to Indiana and what we might see, I think from a stylistic perspective, the sharing of the ball, the constant movement, the shooting, like a lot of that stuff is, I think, what we project to see under Darren DeVries. And if he can build that same mindset of playing hard, playing together, that's going to allow this Indiana team to maybe play a little bit better than the sum of its parts, which is what I think the Pacers are doing, which is why it's so much fun for everybody to watch. And so if this is any type of preview of what we'll see, maybe not this year, but over the next few years under Indiana, as Darren DeVries, kind of builds his system, it's the kind of basketball that basketball purists love to watch. And that doesn't mean that you don't like watching a great player, because basketball purists loved watching Michael Jordan and still love watching Luka Doncic. But it's also nice to see a team play a true team game where individual guys can step up and be stars in the right, matchup. But it's a team and everybody's there functioning as a team and taking what the game gives them. And that is fun basketball to watch. And that's what's made the Pacers so much fun. And so, and we haven't seen that out of Indiana. Indiana has played this style where it's like, okay, we're going to focus. Everything's going to be built around somebody, but it's a guy who doesn't have the ball in his hands. It's a big man, which is especially frustrating. And so I think this is just going to be such a breath of fresh air to be able to see a team play like that.
And you hear Coach DeVries say tonight that he wants the fans to walk out there saying it's one of the hardest playing teams around. You get a lot of culture talk and a lot of that from coaches when they first start, but we want that, and I think that's something that we're looking forward to. Okay, coming up next on the Assembly Call, we have some really good questions from our mailbag. We look forward to answering them, so stick with us.
This is Nick Zeisloft. I never miss an open three, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call.
Nick Zeisloft,
welcome back
for Darren DeVries.
Absolutely. Welcome back to Assembly Call. I'm Coach Brian Tonsoni here with Jerod Morris and Ryan Phillips. It's now time to answer some questions. We got these questions on our private IU basketball discussion community on Substack. And here we go from the top to the bottom. Sharon Tyree says, I'm already anxious about the Kentucky matchup in December. Any thoughts to calm my nerves, Ryan?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know about being nervous about it or whatever. Kentucky had a really good year last year, and they're in year 2, whereas Indiana will be in year 1 with a new head coach. So just be excited the rivalry's back. I think that's the thing that should calm your nerves is it's an early season game. Indiana, obviously we want to win that game. If you don't, there's a bounce back potential afterwards because you've got plenty of time to figure it out for the Big Ten. But I think that, it's a bit of a measuring stick early, given that they're in year 2 with their coach and Indiana will be in year 1. But I do hope this is kind of like for both schools, it's kind of the start of a new era, and not just for the rivalry, but for both programs. And, I don't know how to calm your nerves about it. I really don't, because it's Kentucky is going to have a good team, I think. And I think Indiana will as well.
I think I do. I think
Jerod,
I have a way to calm your nerves. Yeah, I think it's to just focus on the enthusiasm of the rivalry being back. It's such a good rivalry. It should be played every year. And Indiana needs to hold up its end of the bargain in the rivalry and make it competitive for sure. I think to me, the way I'm approaching this first season is without feeling pressure to win. And I know that kind of sounds like kind of a weak statement. Obviously, we want to win. I expect the players and the coaches to feel pressure to win. But, it's Darren DeVries' first season. Obviously, Kentucky's a little bit more established. It'd be great if we win, and I certainly hope we win. But I don't think I'm going to go into that game with nerves. It's going to be just much more enthusiasm. This is back. Let's enjoy it for a couple of hours. And then when we get our coach into, his second and third seasons, now we start building a little bit more pressure saying, okay, now we got to win this game. Let's go compete, have fun, be glad that rivalry is back. As long as we kind of, play well and compete hard, I can accept whatever result happens. And then I think the pressure starts to build after this first season. For the first game, I'm just going to be excited that it's back.
Yeah, it's fun to have the rivalry back. And the way, I don't know anything other than having, a good dessert or something to calm your nerves, Sharon, but it's an opportunity to play basketball and to get ready for the Big Ten. And in a program that wants to deliver success, you have to play these games. And, these games are important. So try to enjoy it as much as possible. Jumping down to Eric Stevens, we've already I want to give Eric a little shout out. He talked about the Pacers and might that be the type of basketball? We just answered that at the end of segment 2. So thanks, Eric, for your question. Moving up, Jerod, this question start with you. We talked a lot about the Bison this evening, and now that it's confirmed, how would you like to see it incorporated into the basketball program, if at all? He presumes placing it on the playing floor or the main uniforms as a non-starter. Your thoughts on basketball-specific use of the new mascot?
It's a really good question because I think when you think of a Bison mascot, almost every thought that you have is from football. Yeah. And obviously, growing up as following Colorado football because my dad played there, my mom and dad have all these, have all the shirts with what's the name of the Colorado Bison?
Ralphie.
Why am I blanking on that? So, you think about it from a football perspective because the Bison can go run out there and run around, and you can't really do that with basketball. So I really don't know, honestly. I think it's a little bit of a challenge for how you incorporate it in basketball. But, and I've almost never paid attention to Colorado basketball, so I don't know how they do it, and I don't know how other schools do it. So I don't know, but I'm fully comfortable in not knowing and not having ideas, and I'm excited to see what they do. So it's kind of a non-answer, but honestly just haven't put enough thought into it or researched it enough to know how a mascot like that is incorporated in basketball. It's just not as obvious as you would do it in football.
I expect a lot of Bison branded merchandise. Number one, but two, he'll be the costume mascot will be at the basketball games on the floor, probably with the cheerleaders doing some stuff. So I don't know about putting it on the floor. Maybe they'll put it on the sideboards or something. I don't know how they'll do it. I think it would be great if the baseball team maybe has an alternate helmet with the logo on it or something. But it's not the actual. But a Bison isn't the actual mascot of the school, which as far as it's not the nickname, which makes it hard to go too overboard with it. It's more just the costumed mascot, I think. So I think that that's the weird pull, is that they aren't the Indiana Bison, they're the Indiana Hoosiers. And so having that incorporated in some way can be difficult.
Maybe when opposing teams are shooting free throws, we pipe in stampede music that crescendos right as the guy is about to shoot, with the students then shouting really loud at the end of it.
Oh, there's got to be a football tie-in, where
Bison head,
thundering herd kind of thing.
Yeah, some big Bison heads. Yeah.
Yeah. Distracting the shooters would be good. I believe this is CJ Delaney wants to know about flight tickets and hotel packages for the Puerto Rico trip. I'm not sure any of us know, but do we have any idea when it's August, 1st of August, when those things kind of pop up, either from the university or from places around Bloomington that might have packages? Any guess on that?
Valerie said she got an email from the varsity club.
Already,
so
okay.
I haven't looked to see yet, but
yeah, reach out to them. Because they'll
Very
definitely want
good.
people going. Yeah.
Yes.
Roryville Ballers says, after what win, football or basketball, will it be appropriate to wear a big Bison headdress to celebrate in public, but not at the said game?
Any win.
Football, any win?
After beating Kentucky in basketball. We'll bring it full
every
circle.
win.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Are we going to go?
You
to
have
the
now
Kentucky
challenged.
Have fun with this. Have fun with the Bison.
Lean in. Are
into
we?
it. Whatever you
By the
wanna
way,
do.
are we planning to go to the Kentucky game? Is anybody? I mean,
I don't know. It's a good question.
It's within
I
driving
mean-
range for me.
yeah,
we
I
need
may
to
even break
look into
my
that.
never to Lexington mantra to
That'd be kind of
to
fun.
go.
We've never done a meetup in like a
like a
opposing
bar on the road.
territory. That'd be kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Takeover on the road.
I think it'd be
That would be
fun
great.
if we can find tickets and go. I think that would be great.
All I know is if
It's
the
worth
Bison
looking
was
into
back
now.
when the Shafino game happened, those videos, some that are public and some that are forever in the archives, would have been even better.
Shafino!
If the Bison head was back then. So look
if I
for a
still
little
have-
porch celebration. A little porch celebration, maybe, with that suggestion.
Yes.
Several questions here. Julie and James asked about Goody, Leo, Tucker. Basically, the NCAA ruling on the extra season request, the waivers. Coach DeVries did address that, saying that they're in a waiting pattern right now. Didn't address Tucker. I think that might be – I don't know if that's already been approved or not. But Goody and Leo, he was asked specifically about it, and he said that he's waiting on that. And he was holding 2 scholarships open that they're still recruiting in case they need to fill those 2 spots, but they really have not been given a time frame. Anything else to add on
Tucker
those?
Tucker DeVries had another year because his injury was season ending. So he didn't play enough games and it was a season ending injury, and therefore he has another year. So he didn't have to.
Does it have to go through an official process though?
Yeah, but I think that's a rubber stamper because he fits
the criteria.
He fits all the criteria. Yeah, and the Goody and Leal are petitioning for an extra year, and Goody is petitioning that his year where he was injured should count as a medical redshirt, even though it wasn't a season-ending injury, which is where the hang-up is. If he hadn't come back for Illinois at the end of the year and played in games, he would have gotten it rubber stamped as well.
Just give it to him.
For real, especially now because you can get a red shirt for as long as you play like an actual red shirt for playing the lower number of games, but it doesn't matter when you play them. You could sit out all year and then play the NCAA tournament and have it not count. You could start in the NCAA tournament, have it not count as a year. So I do agree that if he fits the criteria, regardless of when he played, he should get it.
It's amazing how we just keep like unrolling all these stupid, nonsensical NCAA rules that we all just kind of grew up with. So you just kind of accept that it's fact, and then you see it not be there, and it's like, oh, this never made sense in the first place. And as you unravel them, it's like peeling an onion, and there's more nonsensical, stupid rules and stupid rulings that are happening. Like
the fact that a lot of these rules you cannot explain in 30 seconds is like, or the logic behind them in 30 seconds is the worst part.
Just blow it up. Blow it up.
No rules.
No rules.
It's a pro league. Salary cap, yes. Contracts, yes. No summer rules.
Yeah, I mean,
I
have
hate to say
rules,
that, but
like, the rules should be scaffolding that makes the competition better, and that makes sense. And the stuff that we deal with the NCAA is it's ridiculous, especially now that kind of the veil of authority has been yanked away.
Yeah, but it's too big to
I know,
hold people accountable, because then you get selective. This school was guilty, but this school you look another way, and that's the old NCAA. It's too big, and that's the fear. Someone saw something about the SEC. I don't think that was very true, them leaving the NCAA, but eventually you could see where if enough money and enough people want to get down to a situation to control this, where you're going to have segments of the old NCAA in pockets, so that there can be a commissioner, there can be some sort of structure given to it. That would be that we don't want that. We don't to happen, but I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. 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 I don't know.
Anyway, what else is on your mind before we shut this thing down? This has been quite the show. First 2 minutes, soundboard didn't work. We sat in silence, Jerod, before you got on. Please edit that out. We did get the stuff going. You and I have hit wrong buttons. Galen's gotten pulled over. We have a Bison. Man, we're dealing with this is like the Bull Durham session on the mound. We're dealing with a lot of stuff out here, tonight.
But we still produced a winning show, I think. I mean, let the audience decide, but I think this was still a decent show. We didn't blow the opposition out, but we won. And I think this is a good metaphor for the Darren DeVries era. There's going to be some false starts. There's going to be some silence at the beginning. There's going to be some mishits on the audio board. But just at the end of the day, win. Have chemistry and win, because you can overcome that stuff. So that's all we're doing. We're just getting you ready for basketball season.
I'm proud of you for getting there, because I was not gonna get there. You just connected a whole bunch of dots that were on different pages, and brought it all back together. I'm proud of you.
Look, you know what, Ryan? After a few seasons of really just kind of drifting from, I think, who I am, I'm feeling like myself again. Being able to find the positive in anything. It is amazing when you get off social media.
Welcome
get out
back,
of that
Jerod Morris.
Pool of disgusting nonsense and ridiculousness. You start to reconnect with who you really are. So bring it on. You want positives? You want me to spin something into an optimistic tone? Let's bring it. I'm back, baby.
We missed that guy right there. We missed.
By the way,
Bison is back. Jerod is back.
That's right.
Galen's out $150. Life is good. Real quick, I'll get to your point. Dale, I have that video, but Eddie has it, and as you all have seen tonight, it's better when Eddie's producing than any of us producing. So I do want to show that video. I promised I'd get you on the show. Yeah, this has been quite an evening. It wasn't on my bingo card.
I do have to say, we have to get to Nate's question. So this came in a little bit later, so it might not have made the run sheet. Now, this isn't just a question, okay? This is a burning question. So this is on fire. The words are coming out of my mouth on fire. Will Ryan Phillips host a show this season?
Ooh.
Hell no.
Live to Ryan for a response.
Not the live version. Yeah.
Why? You need to just do.
No, I'm saying because I've hosted the live thing as that was the joke, is that I hosted the live. No, like in person.
Oh, in person.
Upstairs.
Yeah. Live, not the preferred nomenclature. But you know what you need to do? We need to get this monkey off your back. And you could just do like a one-person show, just answer questions. It doesn't even need to have a formal thing.
Genuinely, folks, it kind of became a bit that I thought that was fun, and so I leaned into the bit. But yeah, if we can get the software to work on my computer, yes, I will host the show.
Oh, how convenient! How convenient!
Leaned in.
Well, no, because it's all set up. It's all set up for a Mac, and I have a PC from work.
No. We have Eddie now. Eddie can do the producing. You just have to tell him when to go and read the script and lead and ask the questions.
Shows up again. If Eddie ever shows up again,
takes his kids.
Eddie's on vacation with his kids.
He might just move to Disney World. It's a magical place.
You know what? From his text
goes
today,
5 times a year.
Yeah, it seemed like he was pretty comfortable. And
I hope that's information he was comfortable sharing.
I honestly would love to do do that, Jerry. Just hop on and do a one-off. You should. I would do that for sure.
You should. We'll promote it. People will come ask questions, and you can just respond to questions.
Yes.
Don't even need to do any preparation.
And once I do one, that's it. No, I'm just kidding.
Nah, you'll like it, and then you'll start doing more. Especially if you can just be there and have all the airtime to yourself. Come on, you'll love it.
My favorite part. Yeah.
By the way, I really do want to say this. I do highly recommend, social media has its place. It certainly does. And there's some benefits to it. But if you ever reach the point where you really feel like it's just kind of dragging you down and having a negative impact on your life, there are so many benefits to just taking a detox. And maybe the detox becomes permanent. I think one of the things you realize when you get off of it is, oh, wait, I never needed this in the first place. And so if it's not fun, if it's not additive to what you were doing, it can really be just wonderful for your mental health to just say, you know what, I'm going to get away from this for a while. So anyway, I'm going to throw that out there. You don't need to. Some people can handle it.
Honestly,
I
totally
agree.
Fine, and those people are awesome. I am not one of those people. And so stepping away has been absolutely wonderful. But anyway, if you're wondering why there haven't been any tweets from the Assembly Call account, that is why.
Somebody did ask me that this week. They're like, "What's going on?" I'm just like, taking a break.
And then there's Joel.
But it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me.
Joel needs more
honestly,
bourbon.
I'm very jealous.
He doesn't need toxicity. He needs more bourbon.
I honestly am a little jealous. I wish with work I can't. With what my job is, I have to keep plugged in, and it sucks. And even if you're trying to stay out of the rabbit holes and the whatever the negativity, it's impossible. I mean, really, you can do great for 6 days, and the seventh, So
I've cut back a ton, which has been good too. I haven't gotten rid of anything, but I have cut back, and I'll find myself 3-4 in the afternoon not have been on Twitter or the X or whatever, and then I'll go. I go to find stuff like tonight, the Huber comments and things like that.
Yeah.
And then you do get sucked into some of the regular stuff, and then I got to remind myself I don't want to be there. But instead of having it all the time and having an automatic reflex to go, about a month or so ago, I decided to not totally detox, but I do think that's pretty good. I've been off Facebook for 5 or 6 years and don't miss that one bit at all.
And I think it's important to say, I don't say this with judgment. Like I think some people can handle it just fine. And I think that's awesome. I'm just sharing my personal experience of really feeling like it was dragging me down for a long time, because I'm not great at like not internalizing things or jumping in and, or falling prey to the incentives of, wanting to do stuff that gets shared. And then, posting something, it's like, why did I say that? Oh, because I thought it would, go viral. Like, what was the point? And so I think there's some people that can handle that with much more level-headedness. And what I realized about myself is I just don't really think I can do that consistently. And, so stepping back away. So anyway, if you've been thinking about it, doesn't need to be permanent, but I'm just sharing my firsthand experience, that I feel like it's really made a big difference. I, kind of feel like a little weight has been lifted off, and it is partly social media is partly to blame, because just systemically, I think social media is kind of bad in some ways.
It is,
but it's also just, I was a bad fit for it. And I think it's important to kind of recognize that if you're feeling that way.
Yeah. The only thing we need to remember,
that's why I've been off, and I kind of don't want to go back.
The only thing we need to remember
the
only thing we need to do is remember to tweet before we're going to do a show, so people know. And I forget that every time. So even if you remind me to do it, I'll hop on.
And that's the benefit. It is great for broadcasting those ideas and connecting. That's what sucks about it, is there is some good stuff there. But at the moment that the negative outweighs the positive, you can get your Indiana interaction other places. There's other places for it. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that PSA out there from personal experience.
And on that note,
we might be done.
I think we're done.
Should we end the show with 2 minutes of silence, just like we began it, fellas?
Silent contemplation.
But that's going to do it for this episode of Assembly Call Radio. If you want to see us do the show live, join us at assemblycall.com on, it used to be on Thursday nights, but whenever we announced it, for Assembly Call Radio recording. Thanks to Bob Thompson for producing our music, and thanks to John Ringer of rigdesign.com for designing our logos. And thank you for listening. Until then,
take it from me, Yogi Ferrell. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Catch me if you can, Coach T.
Oh, yeah.
It's a constant, never-ending kick in the testicles.
I don't even remember the context of that one.
No idea.
On here. I have no idea.
We have to clip him saying, "Well, I'm getting pulled over."
I know. I'll go get that.
Just that whole sequence. There's got to be a couple in there.
Dale wants to start a GoFundMe for Galen.
For his speeding ticket.
Start it, Dale. Start it. He'll take it. Then we can just
we should. Galen should profit off it. Yeah, he'll make more money than the speeding ticket cost.
See if he has a Venmo. You guys can send him a couple bucks for it. I did quote tweet. I did quote tweet and say it's the first time in Assembly Call history someone's been pulled over while live on air. I'm shocked it wasn't me.
No, No, Russell, this actually happened. Galen did get pulled over live on the air tonight.
Yes.
It's the beauty of doing a live show, especially when people are out of their studio and like just out doing stuff.
Yeah, go back like
happen.
30 minutes, maybe 35 on the YouTube feed. He's definitely getting pulled over and getting a ticket for speeding while telling us all about the Bison.
Yeah, Brett said didn't realize it was tonight and not tomorrow night. We all do kind of, feel bad that we don't have the same recurring consistent schedule that we used to have. It's kind of one of those things that as Andy's kids got older, as my kids got older, and, just kind of different things kind of popped up in all of our lives, it became a lot harder to kind of keep that consistent schedule.
Yeah.
And it was kind of at a breaking point in terms of, can we keep this going? So that's why we finally decided, you know what, let's ease off. Because the worst thing to do would be to we've got to hit this schedule and then we burn out and it, and then we stop the show altogether. It was okay. You know what? Let's see where this fits in, so that we can keep things going. And when we come on here on the show, we're, fresh and excited and enthusiastic. And so this worked out a little bit better. So we do really appreciate everybody continuing to bear with us, as our schedule is a little bit different. We do want to be as consistent as we can be, and we should be more consistent once the season starts. But that's why we'll try to give as much advance notice as possible. But, sometimes it's hard. Like today, we were kind of talking about when the show was going to be until about 3 hours before it started, just because of some different scheduling stuff. So not ideal, we realize, but at least we think better than no show at all. Hopefully. Yeah. Maybe some people agree with that and some people might not, but
and I think we're roughly in the off season trying to do like every 2 weeks, but sometimes there's not a lot going on. And two, people's schedules, like you said, are crazy, right now with you guys all having kids, and Coach and I don't have a whole lot going on, but we just, if you're going to give us a day off, we're going to take it.
And this isn't like a woe is me thing. Galen and Scott have kids and big responsibilities, and they've kept up the schedule. So there's just kind of some particular things going on right now. And by the way, Andy has a daughter who's graduating high school.
That's insane. Dude. How old was she when we started?
Y'all getting old.
Oh my gosh.
4?
Yeah, I remember sending them little Christmas presents, little kid stuff, the kind of crazy. Now she's graduating high school. That's unbelievable.
Congratulations to the whole Bottoms family. That's amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
They got another one coming up right behind her.
I know. And then once that's done, then my kids are going to start getting old enough to do that.
You're not going to have to tuck them in anymore, Jerod. They're just going to be like, Dad, go do your show.
I know. I know. I'll be here waiting 15 minutes ahead of time.
Yeah, you've built something to hand off to Teddy one day, though.
That's right. That's right. That is absolutely right. Okay, good show, fellas.
Yeah,
thanks everybody for being here.
Good night, everybody.
Later,
See
guys.
you soon.
Sorry, Galen.